The grand hall of the Galactic Council station hummed with nervous energy as Captain Jack straightened his uniform one last time. Through the massive viewport, Earth hung like a blue marble against the black of space, now looking impossibly small from this distance. "Ready, Captain?" asked his second-in-command, Tom. "As ready as anyone can be to represent the entire human race," Jack replied with a half-smile. He looked at his small crew, 5 humans chosen to make first official contact with the Galactic Council. After decades of distant observation, the aliens had finally reached out. The huge doors slid open silently, revealing a circular chamber where representatives of 27 alien species waited. Some floated in bubbling tanks, others stood on multiple legs, and a few appeared almost human, if you ignored the unusual colors and extra appendages. "Welcome, humans of Earth," said a tall being with iridescent scales and 4 arms. "I am Council Leader Vox. We have anticipated this meeting for many cycles." Jack stepped forward. "On behalf of the people of Earth, we are honored to join this gathering of species. We come in peace and friendship." The formal introductions continued, but Jack couldn't help noticing how the aliens seemed to flinch whenever a human moved suddenly. Their translator badges worked perfectly, yet something about the atmosphere felt off. Later, at the welcome banquet, the humans sampled foods from across the galaxy while trying not to embarrass themselves with the various eating utensils. Jack was examining what appeared to be living crystals on his plate when a tall blue humanoid approached. "I am Trell, head of xenological studies," the alien said, voice soft but urgent. "May we speak privately, Captain Jack?" Jack followed Trell to a quiet alcove overlooking the stars. The alien's 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of nervousness according to their briefing materials. "Your species has a concerning phrase," Trell began. "Our linguists have been monitoring your broadcasts for decades. When humans say, 'Watch this,' catastrophe often follows." Jack laughed, then stopped when he realized Trell was completely serious. "It's just an expression. It means we're about to try something interesting or impressive. Precisely what concerns us." Trell activated a small device that projected several video clips in rapid succession, a human on a primitive wheeled device jumping over 20 ground vehicles, another human mixing chemicals that exploded in colorful patterns, a third testing an early rocket pack that sent them crashing through a structure. Before each attempt, the same words, "Hey, watch this." "These are just stunts and experiments," Jack explained. "It's the human spirit of adventure and innovation. Your innovation seems remarkably close to what other species call reckless endangerment," Trell replied. "The Council has created a special classification for humanity based on these observations." Before Jack could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The banquet guests froze, then rushed toward viewscreens throughout the hall. "What's happening?" Jack demanded, following Trell to the main command center. The viewport showed a massive warship approaching, angular, black, and bristling with weapons. Its size made the human vessel daring look like a toy in comparison. "The Drek Empire," whispered a small, fuzzy alien nearby. "They've conquered 3 systems in the past month." Council Leader Vox stood grim-faced at the communications array. "They've demanded our surrender and the immediate handover of all Council technology. We have no defense strong enough to withstand their new weapons." The command center erupted in panicked discussion. Different species argued over whether to flee, fight, or surrender. Jack studied the warship on the screen, an idea forming: impossible, dangerous, but potentially effective. He turned to Tom. "Get Mike up here from engineering. Tell him to bring the specifications for our experimental warp drive." "Captain," Tom said quietly, "that technology is theoretical at best. We've never tested it outside simulation." "There's always a first time," Jack replied, a familiar grin spreading across his face. Tom recognized the expression immediately. "Oh no." Jack turned to address the room. The arguments quieted as he spoke. The Drek ship has a standard propulsion signature. If we modify our warp drive to create a localized spacetime bubble, we might be able to trap them long enough for your reinforcements to arrive. The alien scientists stared in disbelief. That's impossible, said one with metallic skin. The energy requirements alone. The calculations would take weeks, Trell protested. Jack's smile widened. My engineer can do it in hours. And as for impossible. He looked at his crew, then back at the Galactic Council members. Hey everyone, watch this. The entire chamber fell silent. Several aliens backed away slowly. Someone activated an emergency containment field around the humans. In the distance, evacuation alerts began to sound. Jack blinked in confusion, then looked at Trell, whose 4 eyes were now wide with terror. I told you, the alien whispered. Those words. The galaxy has learned to fear them. Turn off the evacuation alerts, Jack said, raising his hands in a calming gesture. I'm not about to blow up the station. Council leader Vox gave a command, and the alarms silenced. The containment field around the humans remained active. Explain your plan, but please, no demonstrations without approval, Vox said. Engineer Mike arrived, tablet in hand, looking confused at the tension in the room. Jack quickly briefed him on the situation. You want to create a temporal bubble around a warship using our untested drive? Mike's eyes widened. The power requirements would be massive, I know, Jack interrupted. Can you do it? Mike studied the Drek ship specifications on the view screen. Maybe. If I bypass the safety protocols and reroute power from life support systems. He paused, noticing the horrified expressions of the alien engineers nearby. Temporarily, of course. How long? Jack asked. 4 hours. Maybe 3 if I don't sleep. Trell stepped forward. Our scientists could assist, though this approach violates 17 safety regulations. Perfect, Jack said. Let's get started. As Mike and Trell's team rushed to modify the daring systems, Jack opened communications with the Drek warship. On screen appeared a reptilian figure in black armor, eyes cold and calculating. I am Commander Kraz of the Drek Empire, the alien hissed. You have 1 hour to surrender this station. Captain Jack of Earth, Jack replied smoothly. We're new to galactic politics. Perhaps we can discuss terms? Commander Kraz looked surprised. Most species simply surrendered immediately. There are no terms. Surrender or be destroyed. That seems inefficient, Jack said. Destroying valuable technology and potential subjects? Surely the Drek Empire didn't become powerful by wasting resources. The commander hesitated, confused by this approach. You have a counter-proposal? Indeed. Jack launched into a series of complex, contradictory diplomatic suggestions, mixing Earth's historical treaties with complete fabrications. From the engineering bay, Mike sent updates. The modifications were proceeding faster than expected, with the alien engineers both horrified and fascinated by the human approach. He's bypassing failsafes that exist for a reason, one alien whispered to Trell. Their safety protocols are optional? I'm beginning to understand why watch this is so concerning, Trell replied. After 2 hours of Jack's diplomatic nonsense, Commander Kraz was visibly frustrated. Enough delays. Prepare to wait. Jack interrupted. Let's try a demonstration of goodwill. Allow me to approach in my ship. Unarmed. Surprised, Kraz agreed. The daring, now modified beyond recognition with hastily attached components and exposed wiring, positioned itself between the station and the Drek warship. Final checks, Mike reported from the engine room, sweat dripping from his forehead. Power levels at 300% of maximum capacity. That's not possible, muttered an alien engineer. Mike grinned. Watch this. The control room aliens dove for cover. Jack activated the comms one last time. Commander Kraz, you might want to brace yourself. A blinding pulse emanated from the Daring. When the light faded, the Drek warship appeared frozen, suspended in a shimmering bubble of distorted spacetime. Time dilation factor of 1:1200, Mike reported. Every second for them is 20 minutes for us. The council stood in stunned silence. Your reinforcements will arrive in 12 hours? Jack asked Vox, who nodded mutely. Perfect. The Drek will experience that as 36 seconds. Barely enough time to realize what happened. Trell approached Jack, all four eyes blinking rapidly. Your species just rewrote the laws of physics, to win time for negotiations. Jack shrugged. Sometimes you have to bend the rules a little. The Council will need to create an entirely new classification for humans, Trell said. And perhaps a galaxy-wide warning system for those two words. 3 months after the Drek incident, the Daring returned to Earth with an invitation. Humans were officially welcomed to participate in the Galactic Innovation Exhibition, the most prestigious technology showcase in the known universe. They're hoping to channel our creativity into controlled environments, Tom explained during the briefing. Let's save the galaxy with untested technology and more present interesting ideas for review. The human team chosen for the exhibition included scientist Lisa and engineer Tom. They brought several inventions that, while groundbreaking on Earth, seemed primitive by galactic standards. During the preliminary showcase, they noticed the polite but dismissive reactions from other species. The clear favorites were the Voltar, pale, six-fingered beings whose technology was thousands of years beyond humans. Their molecular assembler could create any non-living material from base elements with perfect efficiency. During a refreshment break, Lisa overheard two Voltar scientists discussing the human entries. Quaint, aren't they? Said one. Barely past steam power. I'm surprised they made it to space at all. Apparently they did something unusual with spacetime recently, replied the other. Probably a fluke. Their understanding of fundamental physics is rudimentary at best. Lisa returned to Tom with determination in her eyes. Change of plans. We're entering our backup project. Tom nearly choked on his drink. The matter-energy converter? But we haven't tested it beyond the lab. The power requirements alone could. Exactly, Lisa said with a gleam in her eye. If they think we're rudimentary, let's show them what humans can really do. She began unpacking a device they'd brought as a theoretical demonstration, a simple-looking silver box with an open chamber. Trell, now serving as human liaison, noticed the change in activities and hurried over. What are you doing? That device wasn't in your approved presentation materials. Lisa smiled. Just making a small adjustment to our demonstration. Watch this. The phrase spread through the exhibition hall like wildfire. Security teams mobilized. Several species began moving toward emergency exits. The Voltar scientists looked up in confusion at the sudden commotion. Before anyone could stop her, Lisa placed a simple metal cube in the chamber and activated the device. The cube glowed, then seemed to dissolve into pure light. A moment later, Lisa reversed the process, and the cube reappeared, completely unchanged. Perfect conversion of matter to energy and back with zero loss, she announced to the stunned audience. We call it conservation of information during phase transition. The Voltar scientists rushed over, demanding to inspect the device, certain it was a trick. After verification by the exhibition's judges, the humans were declared winners, and immediately subjected to a new set of safety regulations specifically created for Earth participants. As they accepted their award, Trell leaned over to Lisa. You realize the phrase, "Watch this" now triggers automatic security protocols throughout Council space? Lisa grinned. Good to know we've made an impression. Word of human innovation spread quickly through the galaxy. 6 months after the exhibition, an unlikely invitation arrived at Earth's newly established Galactic Embassy: entry forms for the Stellar 5000, an infamous cross-galaxy race considered so dangerous that most species had banned their citizens from participating. The course runs through asteroid fields, radiation belts, and passes dangerously close to black holes, explained the Council representative. No ship has ever completed it without significant damage. We strongly advise against human participation. The warning only fueled interest. Pilot Ben, known on Earth for breaking several flight records, volunteered immediately. His modified ship, the Thunderbolt, looked cobbled together from spare parts compared to the sleek vessels of other competitors. At the starting line, the favorites were obvious: the HFY, insectoid aliens whose neural systems processed information 10 times faster than humans, piloting ships that cost more than Earth's entire space program. The race official, a tall being with silver skin, reviewed the rules with special emphasis for the human. The death waiver you signed is binding in all Council jurisdictions. Your ship's specifications are concerning. Are you certain you wish to proceed? Ben tapped his helmet, grinning. Don't worry about me. Just watch this. The phrase triggered immediate security protocols. Nearby spectators moved to higher ground. Medical teams went on standby. When the race began, Ben's tactics shocked everyone. While other racers carefully navigated around hazards, the Thunderbolt flew directly toward them. Ben skimmed the event horizon of a black hole, using its gravity for a slingshot effect that the HFY pilot called mathematically suicidal. He cut straight through asteroid fields rather than going around, and flew through radiation storms that temporarily blinded sensors. What the other racers couldn't see was that the Thunderbolt, despite its primitive appearance, contained experimental technology, a navigation system that predicted chaos patterns and a shield that absorbed radiation for power. The human is either insane or knows something we don't, commented a race announcer as Ben pulled ahead. When the Thunderbolt crossed the finish line a full hour before any competitor, the race officials were speechless. After extensive inspection for cheating devices, finding none, they declared Ben the winner. As he accepted the trophy, a Council security officer approached. Impressive victory. However, we've established a new, human participation committee that must approve any future competition entries from Earth. Ben laughed. Let me guess, especially if we say "watch this"? Those words now trigger automatic evacuation protocols in 16 systems, the officer replied seriously. So yes, especially then. 6 months after Ben's racing victory, humans had integrated further into galactic society. Ambassador Dan represented Earth on the Council, where he'd earned a reputation for unorthodox but effective solutions to diplomatic problems. The crisis began when the warlike Krell species threatened to invade the peaceful Lumi homeworld over a centuries-old border dispute. The territory in question contained rare minerals vital to both civilizations. Traditional Council mediation had failed, and war seemed inevitable. In an emergency session, Ambassador Dan listened to both sides present their claims, studying the holographic maps of the disputed region. After hours of heated arguments, he stood up. I have a proposal, he said, silencing the chamber. We redraw the border through the disputed territory by creating a new river. The Council leader blinked all 3 eyes. You want to create a geographic feature to solve a political problem? Exactly, Dan said. Both cultures hold rivers as sacred boundaries. According to geological surveys, there's an underground water source perfect for this project. We use controlled explosives along with Lumi water manipulation technology to create a river that splits the territory fairly. This is madness, said the Krell ambassador, his armored scales clicking as he shifted. You can't reshape a planet to solve a border dispute. The Lumi representative, a luminescent being, seemed intrigued. Our people do consider flowing water as divinely ordained boundaries. But creating a river would take decades of natural processes. Dan smiled. Not with human mining ships and your water manipulation technology. We could have a functioning river within months. The council chamber grew nervous. One representative whispered to another, "He's about to say it, isn't he?" Dan looked around the room, noting the tension. "Don't worry. This is actually a well-established engineering approach. Just Evacuation Protocol Alpha," shouted a security officer, cutting him off. "I wasn't going to say, watch this," Dan protested, then winced as alarm systems activated at his utterance of the phrase. Despite the chaos, both the Krell and Lumi agreed to attempt the solution, the Krell out of curiosity, the Lumi out of desperation. 3 months later, a new river flowed through the disputed territory, creating not just a border but a fertile valley that became a joint economic zone benefiting both worlds. The council was simultaneously impressed and disturbed by the human willingness to literally reshape planets to solve problems. A new diplomatic protocol was established. When a human negotiator proposed an unusual solution, all parties had to undergo a mandatory reflection period before proceeding. "It's not that we don't trust humans," explained the council leader to Ambassador Dan. "It's that your solutions tend to be geologically permanent." A year into human integration with galactic society, strange energy readings appeared at the galaxy's edge. The council scientists determined they were caused by void entities, beings from another dimension attempting to break through. Traditional weapons and barriers proved ineffective as the first void breaches appeared in remote systems. The entities consumed energy from stars, gradually dimming them. Panic spread throughout the galaxy. The council assembled a team of the greatest scientific minds, including human physicist Rob, whose theories on dimensional barriers had been largely dismissed as too radical by his Earth colleagues. After weeks of failed approaches, Rob interrupted a council meeting with an intensity that made several alien representatives activate their personal shields. "I need a star," he announced. "A small one, preferably. And about 20 quantum harmonizers." "For what purpose?" asked the council leader cautiously. "I'm going to create a dimensional lock to trap the void entities," Rob explained, projecting complex equations onto the central display. "It's never been done before, but the math works out." The room grew silent. An aide whispered to the council leader, who nodded gravely. "Does your plan involve saying a certain two-word phrase?" the leader asked. Rob looked confused, then understanding dawned. "Oh. You mean, watch this?" "Well, technically." The phrase triggered an automatic emergency broadcast throughout council space. 3 nearby systems began evacuation procedures before anyone could explain it was just a precaution. Despite serious reservations, the council granted Rob the resources. His plan involved creating a controlled dimensional tear near the largest void breach, essentially making a trap that would draw the entities in, then seal itself permanently. "This violates 17 established laws of physics," protested the lead Voltar scientist. "Only 16, Rob corrected. The 17th is more of a strong suggestion." The plan required positioning quantum harmonizers around a red dwarf star, then triggering a precisely calculated energy pulse. The alien scientists predicted catastrophic failure, possibly creating a black hole. Instead, when activated, the system created a shimmering vortex that pulled in the void entities before collapsing in on itself with a flash of light that temporarily blinded sensors. As monitoring stations confirmed the void entities had vanished, the council sat in stunned silence. "How did you know that would work?" asked Trell, who had been assigned to the project as liaison. Rob shrugged. "I didn't, not entirely. But human history is full of theoretical physics becoming practical reality once someone is brave enough to try. The Council established a new regulation: any human solution involving fundamental forces of the universe required approval from at least 3 separate safety committees. 5 years after first contact, humans had earned a special classification in galactic society: creatively dangerous but useful. Their solutions often violated conventional wisdom but saved lives when traditional approaches failed. The final crisis began when astronomers detected a gamma-ray burst from a dying star, powerful enough to sterilize dozens of inhabited systems. Evacuation was impossible given the timeframe. The Council assembled their best minds, including all available human experts. After days of debate, no viable solution emerged. In the midst of growing despair, a junior human engineer named Max, who had been quietly working in the corner, stood up. "I think I can stop it," he said. The room fell silent. The alien representatives exchanged nervous glances. "How?" asked the Council leader, already reaching for the emergency protocols. Max explained a complex plan involving a chain of specially positioned space stations to create a deflection field. "It's never been tried before," he admitted. "But I've run the simulations and—" "Don't say it," warned Trell, who had worked with humans long enough to know what was coming. Max couldn't help himself. "Watch this." The phrase triggered not fear this time, but a complex series of preparations. The galaxy had learned. Emergency teams stood by. Backup plans were activated. Observation posts prepared to gather data. Max's plan required cooperation from 17 different species, each contributing specialized technology. It should not have worked according to conventional physics. But it did. As the gathered council watched the gamma-ray burst harmlessly redirect away from inhabited space, Trell turned to the human ambassador. "We've learned something important about your species," Trell said. "When humans say, 'Watch this,' it's not a warning of disaster as we first thought. It's a promise of the impossible becoming possible." The Council created a new classification for humanity: the Watchers, officially recognized problem solvers called in for the most desperate situations. Throughout the galaxy, a phrase once met with terror gradually became a message of hope: when all seems lost, find a human willing to say, "Watch this."